The Triarch Citadel hung in orbit above Velos 9 like a god's crown, rings of shimmering alloys rotating in silent precision, reflecting the blue fire of the nearby star. Within its central spire, the Grand Assembly Hall was alive with motion. Hundreds of species filled the tiers of seats, scaled, feathered, crystalline, vaporous, each draped in the insignia of their world. The air hummed with translation fields and political tension. At the center stood a lone human. Ambassador Elias Varen rested both hands on the silver lectern, calm despite the storm building around him. His diplomatic robes were plain compared to the flamboyant armor of alien delegates, yet the stillness of his stance drew eyes more than any display. A single spotlight illuminated the scar across his temple, a quiet reminder that he had once been a soldier before he'd become the voice of Earth. He projected the next hollow frame. The image rippled to life, burning seas, floating carcasses, the glass ruins of the Sarnathi colonies. The hall fell silent. Elias's voice was even, unflinching. This attack was no accident. The plasma residue, the strike formations, each matches Dominion's signatures. I have verified these readings with the Concord archives and the Dominion's own combat telemetry. These are your ships, Warlord Corther. A heavy figure rose from the far tier. Metal boots echoed like thunder. Corther Rex, Supreme Commander of the Crothland Dominion, towered above the assembly, 7 feet of scaled fury wrapped in obsidian armor. His eyes burned gold behind a predator's brow. He spoke, his voice like gravel sliding over stone. Human lies again. You twist evidence as you twist words. We do not slaughter the helpless. We conquer warriors. The Sarnathi were peaceful, Elias said. They were scientists. They sent envoys, not armies. Corther's claws dug into the rail before him. Then they were already dead. A ripple of disgust swept the chamber. Several species whispered in their native tongues, their translators hesitating to carry such cold cruelty into words. Elias didn't react. His heartbeat remained steady, his breathing measured. You stand accused of war crimes, he said quietly. The Concord demands. Demands? Corther's roar drowned the chamber. The translation field trembled. Who are you to demand anything of warriors born in flame? You are soft skins bound by fear of death. You hide behind words because you cannot face truth and blood. The assembly murmured. No one interrupted the Dominion warlord. No one ever did. Elias's eyes lifted. Then perhaps you fear words because they reveal what your blade cannot cut, the truth. For a heartbeat, silence held. Then, the hall erupted. Some delegates gasped, others laughed at the audacity. The human had just challenged the most feared warlord in the galaxy, not with strength, but with poise. Corther's chest swelled with fury. His tail lashed against the metal floor. You insult my honor before the Concord. I will not allow it. He stepped down into the center of the chamber, his heavy glaive unlocking from its back sheath with a hiss of plasma. The weapon's twin blades pulsed with red energy, bathing the hall in a faint glow. Corther thrust the weapon toward Elias. If words are your weapons, then speak with them one last time, before I silence them forever. I invoke the trial by duel of truth. Gasps rippled through the tiers. Even the eldest delegates, aquatic elders in hovering tanks, hive queens in golden cocoons, shifted uneasily. The trial was an ancient rite predating the Concord itself, a challenge of personal combat to decide disputes of honor and truth. Once invoked and accepted, it could not be withdrawn. The presiding arbiter, a luminous being of light known as the Varen Speaker, flickered uncertainly. The trial is lawful, it intoned. The accused may challenge the accuser. The accuser may refuse and forfeit the claim. Humanity, what say you? All eyes turned to Elias. His aides, seated behind him, were pale with fear. Lieutenant Arya Kess, his security chief, leaned forward and whispered through the translator bead. Don't do this, sir. He'll tear you apart. Elias didn't respond immediately. He looked around the hall, thousands of eyes, all waiting for humanity to prove its worth or expose its weakness. He saw curiosity, contempt, pity. He remembered Earth's history, the The centuries spent proving that compassion was not weakness, that intellect was not cowardice. He turned toward Corther. If I refuse, humanity loses its voice in the Concord? The Arbiter glowed brighter. Yes. The species would be marked dishonored, and barred from assembly proceedings for a century. Elias nodded slowly. His gaze met Corther's. And if I accept? The Warlord's grin revealed rows of fangs. Then we see whether words bleed. Elias straightened. Then I accept. The hall exploded into uproar. Dozens of delegates spoke at once. The Arbiter's luminescent form pulsed to restore order. Corther barked a short laugh, part admiration, part disbelief. A human diplomat with a warrior's courage, he said. Perhaps your species is not entirely ash and breath. Elias stepped down from the podium and faced him across the circular floor. Perhaps your kind mistakes destruction for strength. For a brief moment, the Warlord's smile faded. Then he nodded once. Tomorrow, at dawn's cycle. The neutral deck. Blades and spirit only. He turned and marched away, his bodyguards trailing like shadows of armor. The echo of his boots faded into the metallic vastness. Arya rushed to Elias's side. You can't fight him. Even in a suit you'd last seconds. You're a diplomat, not. I'm human, Elias said simply. That has to mean something. She stared at him, torn between anger and awe. Then at least let me help you prepare. He managed a thin smile. We'll need every advantage we can find. Later, when the chamber had emptied, Elias remained alone under the domed skylight. The stars above the citadel shimmered like an ocean of frozen fire. He pressed his palm against the glass, feeling the faint vibration of the station's life support systems. Beyond them stretched the heart of the galaxy, violent, ancient, indifferent. Humanity was a flicker of light in its immensity, a whisper among giants. Yet that whisper had changed the course of empires. Corther was not wrong. Humans were fragile. Their bones broke easier, their lifespans were short, their technology still catching up to species millions of years older. But fragility had made them resourceful. Mortality had made them daring. Every breath mattered more when you knew it would end. He closed his eyes and thought of the soldiers he'd led years ago, their laughter before battle, their quiet fear afterward. He remembered the lesson he'd learned too late, that peace never lasts if bought by fear. Tomorrow, he would fight not to kill, but to prove a truth older than any empire. That courage was not the absence of fear, it was the choice to stand anyway. As the citadel rotated, light from the distant star washed across the hall, catching the insignia on Elias's shoulder, a blue earth encircled by silver laurel. He breathed once, steady and deep. Tomorrow, he whispered, we teach them what strength truly means. The stars offered no reply. They never did. But in that silent expanse, something vast and unseen seemed to hold its breath. The neutral deck was a hollow cathedral of steel and silence, suspended between the citadel's gravity fields. It stretched for kilometers, designed for rituals older than the Concord itself, trials where words failed and truth was proven in blood. Now it waited for dawn's cycle, the air thick with the quiet anticipation of billions watching across the galaxy. Elias Varen stood alone in the training sphere adjacent to the arena. The chamber was bathed in low blue light, holographic weapons floating before him. Each one hummed softly, waiting for his command. His fingers hovered over a blade, then a plasma baton, before stopping on a vibro spear, a weapon elegant in form, balanced between reach and precision. He activated it. The spear vibrated faintly, a shimmer of light running down its edge. It was an artifact of Earth's early expansion days, used in atmospheric boarding actions, simple, effective, and honest. Elias admired its symmetry. No rage. No theatrics. Just purpose. Lieutenant Arya Kess entered, her expression a mixture of resolve and disbelief. You've actually chosen that? She asked. He twirled the spear once, the motion smooth, economical. It's old-fashioned, but it understands me. It won't understand him. Corther's fought in 200 campaigns. He's strong enough to break armor plating with a swing. I know. Elias said, voice calm. But he's predictable. Warriors who live by violence fall into rhythm. You can read rhythm. Arya stepped closer, lowering her voice. I ran simulations. Even with adaptive tactics, your survival rate doesn't reach 20%. He gave a faint smile. That's higher than I expected. She exhaled sharply, frustrated. This isn't a negotiation, Elias. It's suicide. It's the same thing, Arya, he said, meeting her eyes. Every negotiation is a battle where you're expected to die for your principles. This time, the weapons just changed. For a moment, silence stretched between them, two soldiers in different wars, united by the same impossible duty. Then Arya straightened, defeated but loyal. At least let me stand by the edge. If he tries something beyond the code. Elias cut her off gently. If he does, let him. The galaxy's watching. He'll reveal himself. He turned back to the spear and began to move, slow arcs, thrusts, parries. His body remembered discipline. The years hadn't erased it, only dulled its edge. Sweat formed along his collar as gravity adjusted mid-training, testing his balance. His breath stayed steady. Every strike was a sentence punctuated by silence. When exhaustion set in, he shut off the spear and let it fall into stillness. Not bad for a diplomat, he murmured. Across the citadel, Cortha Rex knelt in his private sanctum. The chamber's walls were inscribed with the sigils of his ancestors, glowing faintly beneath the amber light. The air smelled of iron and burning resin. Before him flickered the holographic visages of ancient Crothlin warriors, spirits encoded into crystalline memory shards. He pressed a claw to his chest. I have fought 1,000 battles, he said softly. And yet tomorrow I face something I do not understand. The largest apparition, a spectral elder with molten eyes, tilted its head. Fear, my son? Cortha growled. Curiosity. The human accepted the challenge when any sane being would crawl away. Then he is not sane, the elder said. Or perhaps he knows something we do not. He rose, stretching his arms until the armor plates locked into place with a series of clicks. If I kill him, I end a voice that might have changed the stars. If I lose, I end myself. There is no victory here. The elder's voice faded to a whisper. Then find truth in defeat. Cortha deactivated the chamber lights and stood alone, listening to the low hum of the Dominion warships orbiting above. For the first time in his long life, he wondered what honor would mean when no more wars were left to fight. Dawn cycle. The neutral deck flooded with pale light as the artificial horizon simulated sunrise. Across the galaxy, every broadcast channel tuned in. The duel was not just entertainment, it was history in motion. Elias stepped onto the platform, escorted by 2 Concord adjudicators, glowing figures of pure energy, impartial and silent. His breath condensed slightly in the cool air. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the vast chamber. From the opposite gate, Cortha emerged like a storm-given form. His armor gleamed with obsidian scales, a living relic of 1,000 conquests. His weapon, a double-bladed glaive, pulsed red as if alive with hunger. The arbiter's voice rang through the chamber. By the laws of the Concord and the traditions of the Dominion, the trial by duel of truth shall commence. Combatants may speak their declarations. Cortha raised his weapon high. I fight for the Dominion, for the creed that truth is proven by strength. May the weak accept their place beneath the strong. Elias's voice was calm but carried across the expanse. I fight for the idea that strength without understanding is chaos. Truth is not what survives, it's what endures. A murmur rippled through the distant watching crowds. The arbiter lowered its luminous hand. Begin. They circled each other in silence. The first clash came like lightning. Cortha struck downward, his glaive screaming through the air. Elias pivoted, using the spear's shaft to deflect the blow. Sparks danced. Another swing, faster, heavier. Elias stepped inside, stabbing for the exposed joint. Cortha blocked with his forearm, the impact reverberating through the arena. Quick! The warlord grunted. For one who hides behind words. I use them as weapons, Elias replied, catching his breath. You just never learn how sharp they can be. Corther lunged again. The glaive carved a shallow cut across Elias's arm. Pain flared, sharp and immediate. He didn't retreat. Instead, he angled low, striking for the knee, then twisting his spear to force space between them. The duel became rhythm, metal meeting will. Elias's movements were measured, conserving energy. Corther's were thunderous, relentless, each blow testing the human's endurance. After several minutes, Corther paused, breathing heavily through his fanged grin. You fight better than I expected. Elias wiped the blood from his arm. You expected me to die quickly. That's your first mistake. The Warlord laughed, genuine this time. Perhaps it would be my last. They clashed again, closer, faster. The vibro-spear whined as it cut through the glaive's plasma trail, the two weapons locking in a shower of sparks. Their eyes met through the haze, one burning gold, the other cold and human. For a heartbeat, there was no noise, no audience, only understanding. Corther disengaged, stepping back. Tell me, human, why accept this duel? You knew you couldn't win. Elias steadied his stance. Winning isn't the point. Proving that we're not ruled by fear is. Fear is what makes us strong. No, Elias said quietly. It's what makes us human. The Warlord hesitated. That answer did something he hadn't expected. It unsettled him. The Arbiter's tone broke the silence. Combatants, the next strike will decide truth. Continue. Corther raised his glaive in both hands. Elias tightened his grip on the spear. The next move would determine not just victory, but the meaning of strength itself. The vibro-spear's hum faded as both paused, measuring distance, intent, and consequence. Corther's eyes narrowed. He sensed something in the human, not defiance, but acceptance. Elias shifted his weight forward, ready to meet death if it came. The collision of weapons sent a shockwave through the neutral deck. Sparks erupted like dying stars, scattering light across the steel floor. Elias felt the vibration travel up his arm, his shoulder screaming under the impact. Corther's strength was monstrous. Each strike thundered with the weight of centuries of conquest. Yet the human held his ground. Their blades locked, the humming edges hissing where energy met energy. Corther's golden eyes blazed inches from Elias's face. You're breaking, human. One more blow and your body will follow your courage. Elias forced a breath through clenched teeth. Then you'd better make it count. Corther roared and swung with a savage arc. The glaive tore through the air, fast enough to distort sound. Elias ducked, rolling across the floor as the weapon smashed into the ground, fracturing steel. He rose and countered, thrusting the vibro-spear upward. The tip grazed Corther's armor, leaving a shallow, smoking line across the Warlord's side. The alien looked down at the mark, then laughed, deep and resonant. You've drawn blood. Few can say that. Elias straightened, panting. Then learn from it. Corther attacked again, faster now, driven by pride and curiosity both. Each movement was a storm, precision hidden inside fury. Elias met the blows with technique rather than power, turning, angling, letting the Warlord's aggression feed itself into exhaustion. Every deflection cost him, but he endured. Minutes passed like heartbeats. The crowd across the galaxy was silent. Billions watched as the human and the Titan wove through dust and light, each movement echoing louder than words. Then a mistake. Corther fainted low and struck from above. Elias reacted half a second too late. The glaive sliced through his side, burning flesh and fabric. He staggered back, gripping the wound. Blood darkened his robes, dripping onto the arena floor. Corther stepped forward, weapon lowered slightly. Yield. There's no shame in surviving. You've proven courage. That's enough. Elias met his gaze, pain tightening every breath. I didn't come here to prove courage. I came to prove understanding. He straightened slowly, forcing his legs to obey. You think power means domination. You think mercy is weakness. But power without restraint destroys everything it touches, including honor. Corther's eyes narrowed. Honor is survival. No, Elias said softly. It's what you become after survival. For a moment, the warlord hesitated. He had fought philosophers before, none had survived long enough to finish their arguments. Yet the words struck something deep within him. He remembered the ancient Crothlin proverb his ancestors whispered before battle, even the victor kneels before truth. The hesitation cost him. Elias lunged forward, driving the spear down. The motion was clean, deliberate. He didn't aim to kill. The tip struck the metal floor beside Corther's foot, disarming him in the same motion. The glaive spun from the warlord's hands and clattered away. The silence that followed was vast. Corther looked down at the weapon lying yards away, then at Elias, bloodied, shaking, but standing. The human could end it. Every instinct in Corther screamed to fight on, to reclaim honor with a final blow. But the spear never moved. Instead, Elias lowered it. His voice was barely a whisper. This is the difference between us. I could destroy you now. But I won't. Because mercy is the final act of strength. The crowd watching from across the stars held its breath. The duel was over, yet no one could comprehend what had just unfolded. Corther stared at him, disbelief shifting into awe. Slowly, he dropped to one knee, pressing a clawed hand to his chest. You are not like the others. You could have claimed glory through my death, yet you chose humility. Elias managed a faint smile. Because truth doesn't need blood to prove itself. The arbiter descended from the air, its light pulsing in acknowledgement. The human has triumphed. By combat and restraint, truth is rendered. The crowd erupted, waves of sound from 1,000 worlds. Some cheered, some cursed, but none remained indifferent. The impossible had happened. A human diplomat had bested a Dominion warlord in ritual combat. Corther rose slowly, towering once more, but his posture was different, no longer that of a conqueror. He extended his arm. You've shown me what no blade ever could. The Dominion will answer for the crimes against the Sarnathi. I give you my word as warlord. Elias gripped the offered hand, their blood mingling where claws met skin. Then maybe there's hope for the Concord after all. Hours later, the duel footage had already spread through every communication channel in known space. On mining colonies, research outposts, and warships, species gathered to watch the humans stand bloodied yet unbowed. Commentators called it the duel that changed the stars. In the medical bay, Elias sat upright on the recovery bed, bandages covering his side. Arya Kess entered quietly, relief flickering across her face. You're supposed to be unconscious. I've done enough of that in my life, he said, smiling faintly. She shook her head. The entire Concord is in chaos. Half the council wants to rewrite the treaty codes. The other half wants to make you a myth. Let them, he replied. Myth lasts longer than politics. She studied him for a moment, then softened. You could have killed him. I know. But you didn't. He turned his gaze toward the observation window. Beyond it, the stars drifted in their eternal silence. We've all killed enough to fill the void. Maybe it's time we start teaching what comes after. Later that evening, Corther entered the medical chamber, now unarmed and unarmored. The alien's presence filled the room, yet his voice carried an unfamiliar quiet. The Dominion High Council demands your death. They claim I dishonored them by kneeling. And what do you claim? Elias asked. Corther looked toward the stars outside. That perhaps the Dominion needs to learn a new kind of strength. He turned back. You have my oath, our fleets will withdraw from the Sarnathi systems. I will see the reparations carried out myself. Elias nodded once. Then your empire might yet survive its pride. A faint rumble escaped Corther, not quite laughter, not quite sorrow. You speak like a warrior pretending to be a diplomat. Or a diplomat pretending to be a warrior, Elias said. Corther inclined his head. May your words continue to cut. Then he left, his footsteps fading into the long corridors beyond. When the broadcast ended, and the citadel dimmed into artificial night, Elias found himself alone once more beneath the same dome where it had begun. The bloodstains from the duel had already been sterilized, erased by the station's drones, yet the memory remained sharp. He thought of Earth, its oceans, its fragile peace. Of the people who would never know how close their place among the stars had come to ending. And of the warlord who had learned, in one moment of mercy, what centuries of conquest could not teach. Arya's voice came softly from behind him. "They're calling you the man who spoke in steel." He smiled faintly. "Titles are for monuments. I'll settle for the silence that follows peace." She stepped beside him. "Do you think he meant it? About the Dominion changing?" Elias looked out into the starfield, endless and indifferent. "Maybe not today. But a seed doesn't bloom the moment it's planted." Above them, the citadel continued its slow rotation, casting long shadows across the glass.